for you. So let's start with Eliana, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so I'm a freshman at WashU. Right now I'm thinking of studying English and political science, but I still haven't declared yet. And I really, really like it.
More alumni joining us. Okay, well, let Sephora get comfortable, and then we'll come back to her. So Justin, do you want to let us know when you graduated WashU and what you studied and what you're doing now?
Yeah, hi everyone, I'm Justin Kroll. I graduated Milken in 2014, and I graduated WashU in 2018. Some of you might know my younger brother, Sawyer Kroll. He graduated in 2017, so all of you, actually, if you're juniors, you don't know him. Doesn't matter. I studied political science and history at WashU, and since graduation, I've been working on political campaigns. So I stayed in Missouri to work on Claire McCaskill's re-election campaign, and I just got off working Elizabeth Warren's campaign. So yeah, I had a wonderful experience, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Ari?
Hey, so my name's Ari. I graduated Milken in 2012 and WashU in 2016. I studied history, but I had like enough credits for minors, but I just didn't fill out the paperwork in like a few departments, so I can speak to like a few of the departments. Let's see, I'm in UCLA Law School now, second year. I worked for 2 years, so there's a little time gap there. So yeah, that's me.
Great. Sephora, we're just kind of giving an introduction. When did you graduate WashU? What do you study, and what are you up to now?
Okay, sounds good. I graduated Milken in 2013, graduated WashU in 2017. I studied philosophy, neuroscience, economics, like the cognitive neuroscience track, and then, philosophy, neuroscience, psychology. And then I also double majored in econ, and now I work in wealth management.
Great. And another sophomore is supposed to be joining us. Savon should hopefully be on soon. And just, you know, for the WashU folks in the room, we have at least 3 seniors going this year, if not 4 or 5. And Eliana would probably have a better sense than I would. How many undergrads would you say are there from Milken right now? At least 3 or 4? There's
me, Elia, Sivan, and I think one more.
Another boy. I'm blanking on his name. Okay. So let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have 10 Milken juniors in the room. So you guys can put comments in the chat if you want. You can speak up, and you know, any questions that you guys have that you want answers to, go for it. Anything from transitioning to a city like St. Louis, to Greek life, Jewish life, rigor of academics, size of the school, internships, job placement, food, Tempur-Pedic mattresses, whatever you want to talk about. Who wants to kick us off?
Question,
Noah, go for it.
Sorry, I didn't raise my hand, but I want to know if you can talk a little bit about class size and what a class looks like, how accessible professors are, and what type of resources you have as a student going to that school.
Great. And any of you guys can take these in any order you want. And everybody obviously does not have to answer every question.
I can start. So that totally is going to depend on what classes you're taking. I was in classes that had a few people, like 7 or 8. And then I was also in some classes that were like larger lectures. If you take like the sciences that have like up to 300 people, I'd say maybe. From an accessibility standpoint, I would say you have so many resources. My sister's actually a freshman there now, and she is someone who like bugs her teachers a ton. And I would say that she is like speaking to a teacher like once a day, maybe. But she's really on one end. And then me, my like experience there was I would attend like recitation sessions, any class you're in. There's like, the teachers are really welcome to like off and house hours, etc. Like there's lots of options there. So you definitely feel supported, and they do a really good job of letting you know when they're available. And like for essays, etc., like there's a writing center. So there's lots of resources.
What kind of like, do you think you're going to go into STEM stuff or be more like a writing, history, poli-sci person? Because like Sephora was saying, it could depend. What was that? Sorry.
I definitely want to go the medical route. So sciences, chemistry, that type of stuff.
So I didn't take those classes if anyone else wants to chime in, but my experience living with people who did was like, there are office hours, but you work mostly through TAs and the lectures are pretty sizable. So you don't necessarily get to know the professors unless you're like working with them. And many do actually work as RAs, especially in comp sci.
I took the pre-med classes. I ended up like not wanting to take the MCAT or anything, but took all the classes. And I would say that just really like Ari was saying, it's very much like that where you'll be working with the TAs a lot. The teachers are always like available. Like it's not like you can't email them or anything. But I would say there's like, we have like PLTLs and there's someone actually in your residential college that will like once a week or twice a week, depending on the situation, like be there for you to go through homework, etc. with that, like with them, which is really, really nice because it gives you another resource. And it's someone who like, when you're doing your homework, you get really close to them. You're there like twice a week with them. They help you with everything. So that was really helpful in my opinion too.
Sarah?
What made you guys decide to go to, like, what was like the deciding factor to go to WashU?
Justin's thinking very deeply.
It's a good question.
Eliana, you most recently made the decision. Go for it.
Okay. Yeah. I think for me, like it was really a combination of a lot of things, like looking at the schools, like once I got into them, that WashU just had like more things that I really wanted. Like, for me, a big factor that after I've like gone there, I realized I love so much is the size. It's really nice being in a place that's like big enough to always meet new people, but small enough that like on my way to class, I run into a few friends like all the time. And I really like that. Just like not having to like, not feeling like you have to just like insulate yourself with a small group because it's so big, but being able to have that kind of community because you can just like walk by and see people. So the size is like really important for me. Also with classes, I like a lot of the small classes because I'm more into like the English and humanities, and I think that's been really nice. And I was deciding between schools that were really similar to WashU. So I think the thing that made me really want to go, like when I visited, was just like every student that I talked to was super friendly and welcoming, and I just liked the overall vibe when it came down to it, because the schools that I was choosing between were all pretty similar in terms of like statistics and like, if that makes sense.
I think not necessarily getting at your question, but something that you just said, vibe. Like WashU has a very like particular vibe. It's like very nice. It's very like Midwestern in a charming way. Like there are a lot of people I know from like my day who were looking at like Penn, Emory, Rice. That's the sort of like category that WashU is in, or at least was. And WashU is like just a bit nicer. And that's actually why I kind of went. Like I visited and I just had a really nice experience and like talked with professors, and I was like, I would love to learn from you. So
to add on to that, I think the quality of life, like Ari was saying, is very, very high. Mr. Mancuda was Dr. Mancuda, sorry, was referencing earlier the Tempur-Pedic mattresses, and you know we've got amazing dorms, we've got amazing food, and I also think that the opportunities that are available to WashU students is the opportunities are very, very vast. The school definitely takes care of you. They've got a large endowment, which lets them invest in the students in a certain way. So for example, my freshman year, I was in a freshman seminar called Focus Argentina. And it was, the class took place over both semesters. And at the end of the year, everyone in the class went to Argentina together. And I thought that that was an amazing experience. And I still keep in touch with some of those friends that I made in that class.
Yeah, I think freshman seminars are also like, just add on. I'm taking one this year, but I took like most of it already, I guess, at school. And if you decide to go, if you end up, I don't know, but it's something to look into when looking into WashU. They have a lot of classes that are like specifically small classes for first years, and some of them go on to both semesters. And you get to like really have that kind of community that you do at Milken with the class that you have for the whole year and about the topic that you're super interested in, which like I really liked.
I would like piggyback off Eliana. I think that those seminars are really, really, really helpful. And I think that really speaks to, I think, why I chose the school also, is the types of people that go to WashU are that type of person. So it's people who actually want to be engaged. They want to learn. They want to go out and do things. Like, I don't know, they're willing to like sit here with you guys and talk about the school. Like, they're excited, they're engaged. And I think that that's something that was really unique to WashU, is I've never, and like still now being out of school, I've really never met so many people in one place that all genuinely care so much about so many things and are like so interested and excited and like happy and pleasant about it, right? Like, it's not like in a competitive way. It's in a genuinely like collaborative, excited to learn kind of way. And it felt like Milken in that same vein almost, where like people were really like engaged with each other.
We have another Milken grad who just joined us. Do you want to say hello and let these juniors know what you're studying and who you are and what year you're in?
Hi guys. My name's Sivan. I graduated Milken class of 2018, so I'm in my sophomore year right now at WashU, studying computer science and finance.
Finance. Okay, Sarah, you have a question.
Yeah, so obviously like Milken is like unique in that I think like it's a homogenous culture, if like you catch my drift. Like, so what is that like at WashU? Do you have to like seek out that kind of diversity, or is it like very accessible to you?
You want to start us off with diversity, Sivan? Talk about how you find diversity on campus?
Sure, yeah. I'd say it's pretty easy to find diversity as far as the people you surround yourself with. Like, coming from Milken, I went to Sinai also, so I've always been surrounded by like same like kind of Jewish bubble. But then right when I got to WashU, like my friends weren't Jewish, they weren't similar to the people I've grown up with, and like I don't see it as an issue as far as finding ways to expand like the diversity of the people you're around.
Other thoughts on that, Justin?
And that experience too.
Yeah, there's a lot of diversity, especially coming from Milken. On my freshman floor, we had a bunch of international students, and it was such an integral part of my whole college experience of meeting people with different backgrounds than my own, meeting people from all over the world, from different socioeconomic places in life, different countries. And I think it's really important to expand your bubble in that way as you go through your studies. And even if you want to, keep things a little closer to what you're used to and what you're comfortable with, there's of course a Hillel and Chabad and all sorts of other organizations that you can get involved with if you want a mix of, meeting new people and also staying close with your roots.
There's a ton of Jews.
Yeah.
Like, even in the non-Jewish organizations, like there's a ton of Jews. So in that sense, it's pretty comfortable. But like your freshman floor, for instance, you get exposure to different kinds of people like right off the bat. It's pretty refreshing. Like, it's weird, but it's pretty refreshing.
Julian's raising his hand, and then we'll get to Ariel's question. Go for it, Julian.
So what's like the surrounding environment like? Do you feel like you're in the middle of the city, or is it more of like a college town vibe?
Great question.
It's definitely not like in the middle of a city. You're kind of like, you're in St. Louis, but you're in Clayton. So you're sort of like a 10 to 15 minute drive away from downtown. So the campus, it's very college-y, but it's also accessible enough to like, you're not isolated where you can't like go do things. Like, you can go and find restaurants and some places where people, like, you'll go downtown sometimes, but you're also not, it's not like NYU where you're surrounded by like a real urban environment.
I'd agree with that. I think that you have the resources you need to like go out, explore the city. You're totally able to do that. It's accessible. But I do feel like when you're on campus and you guys are kind of in your own little world, and you're going like to the street next to campus where you see people from campus. So it's a little bit, I would say, like of a bubble to some extent while you're on campus, which is something I really wanted. Like I wanted to really feel like I was a part of a school. Like if I wanted to be in a city, I would have gone to NYU as example. But I think that all being said, like St. Louis has an incredible restaurant scene. There's like a lot of fun places to go out and do things. Like there's really cool art. You're right by Forest Park, which is beautiful, and you can go out and exercise and all of that. So I would say you get the benefits of being in a city, but you don't feel in the day to day like you're walking around a city. You feel like you're in a college town or a college campus.
WashU's campus is like not to be underestimated. Like the endowment Justin was talking about, like it's something you don't think about, but they change the flowers out like almost on a weekly basis. They are so flush with money, and like that you see that in like the campus life, and like that's obviously just half joke, but like there's definitely a strong like campus community, and the campus is like a big rectangle from which you don't necessarily have to leave if you don't want to. But there's a very cool like sort of Westwood type street called the Del Mar Loop. I guess it's kind of like Westwood. There's like a good amount of like bars and stuff, but there's also like a good amount of weird stuff going on. It's kind of interesting. It's like a fun little college-y town.
Ariel?
Okay, this could be kind of two different questions or one question, depending on the answer, but what was like one thing that surprised you that like you wish you knew, or like maybe one thing that you would change?
Great question.
I would say think about your job. And I know that's crazy to think about as like a high school senior, and maybe you shouldn't, I don't know. But like it's sort of hard depending on your major to transition back to Los Angeles. Like if you want to go to New York for like 2 years or whatever after school, or Chicago or Dallas and Austin and those places, WashU's a great place to be. Like a tremendous place to be. Los Angeles, the pipeline is not necessarily as robust. So I don't know, like in the back of your head, kind of think about, well, if I'm going to go for like a certain kind of major, then I'll need to think about how I make my way back, if that's your intention. That's something I didn't think about when I was in high school, because like, why would you? But it sort of came to bite me a little bit.
Justin and Sephora, do you have any thoughts as graduates, conversely or in agreement with Ari?
I think I totally agree with Ari to some extent, but I think that one thing that I realized while I was at WashU that I don't know if I would have realized if I was in LA is how much is really on you to like make that happen. And I almost like, I'm kind of glad I was a little bit far from Los Angeles. So I think it really made me like think like that, right? Like I started to think, okay, wait, like if I want to do something in my life in Los Angeles, like I'm going to have to network. I'm going to have to make that happen. So I agree. I think it's harder. Like Ari's completely right. But I think if you go in knowing that, like at the end of the day, any job you're going to try to get ever is going to be based in large part on like your ability to network. So better learn it late, like earlier than later, I guess.
Yeah. Justin, same thoughts?
Yeah, I think Sephora put that beautifully. As a political science major, a lot of my friends and the people in my classes ended up going to DC, which is where I would like to get to after November. There aren't as many people who have made it back to LA. And that's not to say that, you know, through your career, you can eventually make it back here. But yeah, I think if you put the work in and you talk to the right people, nothing is stopping you from getting back to LA.
Justin, can we actually segue from that and talk about politics? You know, Missouri is a different place than LA. Can you talk about the political vibe on campus? Was it mixed? Was it one-sided? Was it contentious? Things like that.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I'm really glad that you brought that up. I would like to apologize to all of you for failing in my duties in 2018 to re-elect Claire McCaskill. We don't have to go into politics, but whatever. WashU is, I would say it's a fairly liberal school. I think most students there are leaning liberal. That's not to say that it is difficult to find conservatives on campus, and I had so many amazing conversations with close friends who did not feel the same way that I did about certain issues. I don't think that WashU is the most politically active campus, as in I kind of think about UC Berkeley and constant demonstrations and protests happening there, and that's not really the vibe so much at WashU. That's not to say that the students will not protest when things are happening that are important, but I think it's a lot more laid back. Does anyone else have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Compared to like a Berkeley or like other liberal schools, it doesn't have the same kind of contentious, sort of intense vibe. But if you're interested in finding like political outlets or people to talk to about that kind of stuff, or even being involved in St. Louis, because it is like a very interesting political atmosphere, there are so many opportunities. And like there are so many clubs and just people who are politically interested, even if it's not like a loud thing on campus. And like even this semester, I'm like doing like this internship in Missouri, like with the ACLU, and like I found that through WashU. And so there are so many opportunities about like political activism in St. Louis that WashU can help you get involved in without it being something thrust upon you by like the campus vibe.
Sarah, you have a question?
Yeah, so obviously like WashU's super like prestigious. So would you say that there's definitely like a competitive vibe, and it's kind of, because obviously like sometimes those things can get toxic, and like that's definitely like one of my concerns, being like one of those potentially toxic people. So can you like speak on that?
Great question. So Vaughn, what have you found in your almost 2 years?
Yeah, so my first 2 years, I found that it's not that cutthroat as far as competition. I felt that it's way more collaborative in the sense that if you need help from a friend, like no one will withhold information from you. If you need help on assignment, like I do assignments with my friends all the time. That was one of the things that drew me to WashU. Like it does have that prestige of like an Ivy or a top school, like a top 20 school, but it does seem to have a more laid back atmosphere, I think, academically, in the sense that people aren't trying to like compete with each other as much as everyone's helping each other out more so.
I agree. I would even say it's like less competitive than Milken. And like Milken's not like a super competitive, like I didn't find Milken to be super ultra competitive, but I think WashU is like more collaborative and less competitive or toxic than even like Milken was. It's very much like people want to help each other out and like talk about things, and there's no like, it's not like a rat race or anything like that.
Yeah, you're all struggling together. You're all trying to help each other out.
Any disagreements from the grads? Okay, Hannah?
Do all freshmen live in the same place?
Yeah, so for the most part, there's an area called the South 40, which is like, it's the south part of campus, and it's 40 acres, hence the name. And it's really nice. It's like, it kind of looks like Disneyland, like Ari mentioned. It's really well kept, really clean. You have like a bunch of shops that are student run shops. There's like a bike shop and like a haircut place where you can get clothes. Yeah, it's really its own little bubble. Its own little community, and that makes it really easy to transition. I found at the beginning of college, because your first semester, like a lot of the things you're doing socially are things on your floor with the people in your building, and like your dining hall everywhere you're going, for the most part, other than your classes, is like on the 40 with the other freshmen. So it makes it really easy to meet people and to find friends and to stay in touch, is what I found. I think that's one of the best parts, yeah, of WashU.
Any other general thoughts on housing? Because I know it's pretty unique at WashU.
Housing is really nice. Like, I don't know how familiar you are with the housing, but like it's very nice. Like there's like a bad dorm is like a dorm that's 10 years old. Like they don't really have bad dorms, and like everything's like very nice. Like the beds are nice. It's big. Like you're not with 4 other people in a room. I don't know. I think it's really nice.
It's so nice.
It did have bad dorms, but they're all gone.
Yeah.
Like in my day, which is not like a long time ago, there were bad dorms and I was in them, but they no longer exist.
And
Yeah.
even expanding off of that, the South 40 is not only a place for freshmen, but a majority of sophomores, at least my year, stayed in the South 40. So like it's a great place for those first 2 years of college to really get acquainted with the people in your class. In junior year, that's when most people make the decision to either move off campus or stay on campus. There's a separate part of campus called the Village. I'm having amnesia. I think it's called the Village.
Yeah.
Where lots of juniors and seniors live, and where some of the fraternity houses are. And then even senior year, I was able to live slightly off campus, but in university-owned dorms. So if you want to go out there on your own, get an apartment with some friends, there are lots of great neighborhoods that you can do that, and you can do it pretty cheaply. And if you want to stay in university housing, because again, like everyone was saying, it's so nice and so comfortable, you are free to do that all 4 years.
Okay, Adam, question?
I have a question for Sivan, actually. I remember you briefly mentioned something about computer science. Like, what's that like there?
Yeah. So I came in as an architecture major. I did like the track through Milken. Like first month in, switched to computer science. It's great. Like they have a lot of resources. It's a pretty big department. I had no prior experience. I don't know what your experience level is, but like it was pretty easy for me to like take the intro classes, pick it up, like get my footing. And yeah, a lot of good classes, a lot of really interesting things. I made my schedule for next semester today. I'm taking like video game programming, mobile app development, like some pretty cool stuff. A lot of features, a lot of options.
Cool. Anybody else with computer science anecdotes, or just Sivan? Okay, Noah?
Yeah, hi. My question is directed towards Ari and basically any of the graduates. How is it transitioning? Because you mentioned you go to UCLA now for law. How is that transition from Washington to UCLA? And what would you say is difficult about that transition, or maybe positive? Like, what do you have to say about that?
Well, so first of all, I took 2 years off. I worked for the city of Santa Monica, so I was like in government for 2 years. I'd say the biggest difference is like things we were talking about earlier, like the campus is huge at UCLA, and like really people walking around. Like Eliana was saying, like at WashU, when you go to your class, like a classic day is going from your dorm on the South 40 to the business school because Einstein's is there. You pick up a bagel and you see like 10 people along the way. So it's very different in that respect. Like, I mean, academically, it depends on your classes. So, I mean, I can't really speculate as to that. But culturally, it's pretty different in that WashU is much more a community than anything I've seen at UCLA, even in the law school, which is much smaller and a subset.
Justin and Sephora, anything about kind of the transition away from St. Louis?
I thought it was pretty, honestly, like easy. I came back to LA, and I thought it was pretty easy. I would say the one thing, honestly, is just the transition from college to like real life, which is, I think everyone experiences it regardless of where you go. At the end of the day, you're going from an environment where you're like seeing your friends every day and like you're doing work, but like you can wake up at 11 a.m. to like, I don't know, I'm in a job where like I have to be like dressed fully ready like before 8 a.m. every day at work. And so I think that like there's those transitions. But that all being said, I wouldn't say that it's like particularly difficult. It's not like there's a huge culture shock or anything coming back. And I think WashU's pretty like in the middle to some extent, where it's like not like you're going from this crazy insane environment back to the real world or something. Like it's still people who are like aspirational and are going to be similar to the types of people you're going to be interacting with probably outside of college.
WashU ended up actually transitioning me into the job that I ended up getting. The the Career Center had a really effective and useful group for students who wanted to get involved with public policy. And they were the ones who kind of sent my resume and information over to the campaign that I ended up working on. And so the transition for me, I stayed in Missouri and was working 7 days a week for like 80 hours. The transition wasn't too bad for me. And it was also fun because the folks on the campaign knew that I could handle a lot of the things that we were doing just because I graduated with a degree in political science from WashU. And so it was exciting to be given a little more freedom and respect, I guess, just because I had just graduated from WashU.
Julian?
So kind of two questions. First, is there a core curriculum? Are there requirements before you can choose your major? And then second, how bad is the weather? Because I know it's the Midwest, but it's also kind of like further down south. So, yeah.
So why don't we start with Eliana and Savan on the kind of general education stuff?
Yeah, so I'm in the College of Arts and Sciences, so I'm just going to speak to the requirements there. It's not like there are specific classes that you have to take. What they call it is distributional requirements. So you have to take like a certain amount of credits within like humanities, social sciences, natural science / math. But it like doesn't feel hard at all because you do that at the same time as whatever classes you want for your major. And like, let's say like I'm taking a political science class. It'll count towards my political science major, but also as like a social science distributional requirement. So they have like, the only one like actual required class that you will take with everyone is college writing, which is just a writing class. But everything else, like you have to take a few things in different disciplines, but it doesn't feel like it's a difficult thing that gets in your way of like studying what you want to study.
Anything to add, Savan?
Yeah, similar thing. The distribution depends like on your school. Like I'm doing computer science, which is the School of Engineering, and then finances in the business school. So I have to do like my general distributions for both. But like Eliana mentioned, like my distribution classes for the business school like fulfill my requirements for the engineering school for like certain like humanity courses I have to take. So like like she said, she pretty much got it. Like it doesn't really get in the way. I found that those intro classes are a good transition because they kind of feel more like Milken level classes as far as difficulty. And then second year for me at least is where it started to ramp up as far as like starting to feel more like college coursework in difficulty. But yeah, it's not a big deal. I think they also take like 15 credits from your APs if you have those. So that helps you get out of the way of like maybe some math classes at the beginning.
And any of you chime in about thoughts on weather?
It's pretty cold. It's like hard to get, but once you get used to it, then it's kind of fine. It's just like in the beginning. Like LA is better for weather. Like it's really cold and you have to wear like a huge coat and it can be really annoying, but it's also nice. It's nice having seasons. Like the fall was really, really nice. And I'm sure the spring would have been nice, but
It's really humid. I don't know if you've experienced humidity, but like
the first month is so hot.
yeah, and moving in, I mean, so like my apartment when I was a senior, the air, there was no air conditioning. So it was like hot and humid and I had to like build a bookshelf and it was miserable. But the weather's super fun. I don't know if anyone else experienced that, but like it's very fun to experience winter and like fall because you don't get that here.
I'm with Ari. I liked it. I think I don't know, like everyone goes outside when the first snow happens and you get to all experience that together and it's really special. And then also I'm sad you didn't get to see the spring. The spring is really beautiful. And like when like around finals and all of that, everyone's so excited to be out on the grass and like hanging out. You have such a different appreciation for like being outside when there's a period of time that you're not outside. I'd also say it's like less bad than a lot of other places. Like everything's salted, so it's not like you're slipping all the time. And it's not like you're walking that far, so it could be a lot worse.
And just to add to that, I think it's perfect if you want to experience all 4 seasons, but also like this is not Chicago we're talking about. You're going to get a winter, but it's going to be a mild winter. All 4 years that I was at school, we got some snow, mostly sprinkles of snow. So it's not like the weather was absolutely horrible. My younger brother is at Northwestern right now, and he experienced the polar vortex, the kind of thing where like people would die if they were out for more than a minute or two. It's not that. It's much, much nicer.
Hannah.
Did any of you participate in Greek life? And if you did, like, what did you think of it?
Sephora did.
You did too. I can start, I guess, since I was called out. I loved Greek life. I thought it was really, really great because it's not your entire identity. And to me, that was super appealing because I didn't like want to be spending my entire life with all the same people doing all the same things and like feel that kind of pressure. But it was still something super accessible and like really, really fun. It's not like competitive the way you see it at other schools a lot of the time when like they have those like gross rush videos and stuff. I really liked it. I made like till now some of my best friends, and I think what's really, really great about WashU's Greek life is there are so many different types of people within Greek life that there is somewhere for like a lot of different types of people, which I thought was really nice. It's not like one type of person is in Greek life.
It's a great time. I highly recommend it. I mean, the thing about WashU is like they tell you 30% of people are in Greek life, which is like the magic number in my opinion. There are enough people that it feels like there's like a Greek world to sort of enter into, but when you're not wanting to be a part of it or want space from it or not in it, like there's the rest of the world and there's like a ton of it to explore. So, and it's not like once you enter, you lose your connectivity with the outside world. That's one of the great things that I think other schools like, I mean, just as a comp like Michigan, a lot of people tend to be more friendly with like people in their classes, their school, but also like their fraternity. WashU is a bit more, or a bit less so like that.
Yeah, I'm loving it so far. I joined Greek life. I think one of the best things about WashU's Greek life is that you join second semester of your freshman year. So it gives you that first semester to kind of find your group, like get your routine down. I saw my like core friends from first semester who were just like people on my floor, people I met. And then once you have those friendships established, if you choose to go to Greek life, like you get to jump into like a whole new social group where you get to find more friends. And some of my best friends now are from my fraternity. Also the connections you get from it are pretty helpful, like just as far as like more people that could be in your classes or older kids who have taken classes that you want to take. Yeah, I would highly recommend it too. It's really good at WashU, and the people are all nice at WashU, so it's not like you're gonna find your like stereotypical fratty people who maybe aren't as friendly as you'd think. Like everyone, it's a pretty like open arm community.
Yeah, I also just joined this semester, and like I've really liked how it was a second semester, how I was joining second semester, because like Sivan said, I have like my friends from first semester who, and like I'm living with people next year who we're all in different sororities, but I've gotten to meet like so many cool people in my sorority, and it just adds like an extra social scene and just more stuff to do, and it's really fun. And it's a good way like as a freshman to meet upperclassmen, because first semester you're more like with the freshmen, and then you get connected to like a network of like different like age groups, which I think is really fun and cool too.
All right, I want to be sensitive to the time we have left and make sure we get to some other questions. So Shannon?
Yeah, I have two questions. One is like for everyone. You guys started kind of talking about Jewish life, so I wanted to know if you had like anything to add about that. And my second question is kind of directed to Ari, because I'm like thinking of going to the like pre-law track, so I wanted to know what that's like for you, like being in law school now.
So reverse order. So I'll do pre-law first. The pre-law track is relatively, and not in a bad way, non-substantive. So there's like a freshman seminar that you take called like Law and Society, taught by the head of the Career Center. And it's a great little seminar where you meet a bunch of people, like all of whom will eventually go to law school, basically. And it's basically just like employment resources for you to think about your path toward law school. That's like what most pre-law programs are, and that's what it is at WashU. So I think the pre-law stuff prepared me well, and like thinking about the LSAT and thinking about what law schools kind of meant in practice and like transitioning to it. But I wouldn't say like that was like on the list of my like WashU affiliations. Pre-law was like not necessarily highest on the list, and even if it were, I'm not sure there would be too much more I would have done with it. Just real quick on Jewish life though, it's only gotten better. Like when I was a freshman, it was okay, and I feel like it's gotten better because there was a new Hillel like, my senior year, and Chabad they just kept getting better at like making programming that was relevant and getting people in. So I thought it was great. I don't know if other people had the same experience, but.
Other thoughts on Jewish life?
Yeah, for Jewish life, like what I found is there are so many Jewish people. So even if you don't necessarily feel like going to like the Jewish life events, like the Chabad stuff or the Hillel stuff, you'll still meet like a lot of other Jews to connect with those kind of things. Like to connect over those kind of things with, which I really like because I don't like always go to, like I'll be honest, I don't always go to like the Jewish life events, but it's nice like knowing Jewish people there to make me kind of feel at home. Like, yeah.
Any other thoughts? Okay. Noah?
I'm so sorry. I accidentally clicked that.
It's okay. Sarah?
Thank you for all the answers.
I'm pretty sure you said my name, but if you didn't, let me know.
Sure.
But I think, sorry to like pile the questions on like Ari, but anybody else can step in. Like I was thinking of entering like college as like a history major, but literally like just because I don't feel like I'm good at anything else. So like what, not necessarily like pre-law, but like what is that like to be a history major? I know that's broad.
That's a great reason to go into history.
I don't think anybody who's getting into WashU is not good at anything else.
No, like I mean I think the only thing that like consistently I'm like interested in, and I think I'm just
got it.
I mean, I actually like if I had to do it over again, I would probably have been a writing or a literature major. And this is something you don't really think about when you're a freshman, but every major program has like an intro class you have to take. And so you take your intro classes or whatever, they fulfill your general education requirements, but then then at least for me, I chose classes that sounded interesting, and they were like Jewish literature classes and like writing classes. And I came in with enough AP credits that my history major was mostly done by the time I got there, which is kind of weird. But it's possible to do. So like, you know, if you're in that position, that's great. The history major, it's interesting because there's a lot of programming that allows you to actually like train to be a historian, which is not what you think of when you're like reading AP Euro or whatever. But the major program is really good. I think it's not like the biggest program like comp sci, definitely a bigger, you know, more robust program. But history is very intimate and the professors are fantastic. So it's just
are there any like research opportunities like with the professors? Or, like,
yeah. They love that kind of stuff. So you can be an RA in the same way that sci kids are RAs for like Citron or whatever. The history professors have summer research, and they'll go through your thesis research if you're so inclined and motivated. It's a good major, but it's not so heavy that you aren't free to do other stuff, which is what I liked about it.
I know we have a question. Ariel's got a question, but I want to kind of jump off something academically. And Savan, maybe you could talk about this because you briefly touched on it. I've always been surprised, might be the right word, about the ease at which WashU students can move between schools. And to Sarah's question about maybe not knowing what she wants to study, this might connect. So maybe Savan and anybody else who thinks they can speak to the ease with which you can move about academics?
Yeah, super flexible in every sense. As far as the classes you're taking, they give you a 2-week period at the beginning of each semester to test out those classes, like feel them out. And if you don't like a class, you can drop it within the first 2 weeks. Like I said, first 2 weeks of college, I didn't like architecture. I just had to go online, fill out a form, and I switched to the School of Engineering to a completely different major. So yeah, it's pretty easy. And then also a great thing is double majoring. I've found is pretty doable also. Like I said, I'm comp sci and finance, and I'll totally be able to do that in 4 years without any issues. So yeah, it's a great school if you're not that sure what you want coming in, because I think you have the time to kind of feel things out the first semester or two, and then there's no issue like finishing your degree after that.
I'll also build on that. I think you don't even have to necessarily pick a degree in another school. The fact that you can take classes in another school is like pretty unique. For me, like I took a bunch of classes in the business school without having a major, and I thought they were really interesting, and it was really helpful to further my like career mentally. I think like it doesn't even matter if you end up getting a major. And I know like lots of friends who would take classes in, for example, like the art school just because they could. You don't really necessarily get to do that at a lot of other schools. So I agree, it's really
Yeah, and I like don't really know yet what I want to do. And I've found that like the advisors and kind of just the school in general is really open to that. And like whenever I ask like, oh, do I need to be worried about like figuring it out faster? Like they just tell me to calm down and just kind of like if you take classes that you're interested in, you'll kind of find what works for you and you'll be able to like major in that. It's not like you have to figure out in your freshman year right away like what you're going to end up doing the rest of college.
Ariel?
So we already kind of covered Greek life, I guess, but maybe something besides that, like what's something that you are or were involved in? And like, I guess, why did you choose to do it? Like, was it something you were involved in high school or a new thing? And like, yeah.
So I never ended up joining Greek life, and it worked out totally fine because I got so close with the groups that I was involved in. I joined the Frisbee team at WashU, which was a total blast. That was my own personal frat. I became the editor-in-chief of the satirical newspaper at the school, which was another great thing. I was the editor-in-chief of the Roar at Milken, so that was something that I was able to use to, explore something else. And yeah, all my friends got to be involved in really cool clubs and organizations. And if you want those to be academic or based on community service or just based on throwing a piece of plastic down a field, you could really do whatever you want.
I'm curious, Justin, are there any campaigns you are currently working on or you're taking a break?
I'm taking a break. It's not a good time for hiring. There's some disease going on. I'm not really familiar, but yeah, Elizabeth Warren dropped out early March. And so since then, I've been reaching out to the Biden team and other statewide races and trying to figure out what's going on. So I'm hopeful that something is going to come up soon. But obviously, it's going to take some time before they really unfreeze all the hiring processes.
Shmuel, you have been patiently listening. Do you have any questions you want to pose, or anybody else who's got any questions? Ariel raised their hand again, but I'm going to give Shmuel a chance to chime in.
Not really. Everything that I came up with kind of got addressed as I thought of it, essentially.
I have one more, but go ahead, Ariel.
Okay, I know this is a really specific question. This is for Sivan. Why did you choose to move out of the architecture program?
Yeah, I kind of just realized, like, as I started doing it in college, that while it's a passion of mine and I love the field, it's not necessarily a career path I want to take. More so just, yeah, I didn't see myself wanting to be an architect. Like, doesn't mean I don't love it. Like, I think I'm still going to take classes in the art school and like pursue that for my own interest, but it's not something I want to do for the rest of my life.
Forgive me if this question got asked and answered, and then we'll get to Shannon. Maybe I'll close out our questions. But was school spirit mentioned? And if not, can we talk a little bit about school spirit? It means something different at every school. Could maybe each of you, in a sentence or two, describe how students showed school spirit at WashU? Because it's likely happening in non-traditional ways. Maybe.
Oh yeah, I would say that there's definitely a lot of school pride, but not school spirit in the traditional sense. Like in the sense that you don't have your big sports games, you don't have your big tailgates. Like we have a football team, and like my freshman year, they really tried to push like getting people to show up to the games. They would do like university hosted tailgates, which didn't really work. Like 8 people showed up, but yeah, like people are definitely proud to go to WashU. Like everyone you talk to, like really lets you know that they're from WashU and loves that they are, but it's not a school sense in a like a sports, like the traditional sense.
Sephora, school spirit. Sephora looks frozen all of a sudden. Justin?
I think that.
Oh, there she is.
No, sorry. Okay. I think you said that really well. I would add that I think that they go to watch you, and also like how involved they are in the community and stuff. Like I think that WashU students like are their own brand in St. Louis, and also like in the things they do. We have school spirit when we like go to events, like we have Wilds, for example, and people get really excited, and like that's our version of school spirit. But it's not like the classic school spirit that you see at like a Michigan, for example.
Eliana?
Sorry.
Yeah, just kind of what they're saying. Like it's a very laid back school, and because it doesn't have like the D1 sports, it's not like typical school spirit, but people like love it, and it's just kind of what everyone's been saying.
Ari or Justin, anything different to chime in about spirit?
I was just gonna say Sephora is like spot on with what she was talking about, like the events. Like my friend from Michigan came Wild Weekend, and he comes on a Saturday morning, and he's like, "There's got to be a football game. Let's go." So we go, and like he's like, "Bring the Natty Light or college beer or whatever," and there was no one there. There were the parents from the opposing team, which is great, but that's not D1, But Wild was like spectacular time. Like it's so fun, and that's where like WashU spirit comes in. So it's like really event based rather than like rah rah stuff.
And I guess for you and in Sephora and Justin, when I didn't work with all of you in your application processes, but I'm guessing that some of you chose even when you applied, you chose WashU over other places. Any regrets looking back on that decision and what you missed out on in other aspects?
Absolutely not. I think that you can visit other schools and get that experience, and then like I don't know, I think you're gonna go out regardless. If like you're looking for the going out and all of that, if that's what you want to do, you can do that anywhere. For me, like it was a little bit less important to like be tailgating every weekend. Like I was like, okay, if I want to do that, like I could visit my friend and do that. But what I really cared about is like the people and the connections and all of that. So I don't know, it totally just depends what you're looking for in a school.
Okay. I want to get to our last couple of questions. So Shannon, go for it.
I just had a quick question. You guys were talking about like flexibility of being able to take classes in different schools. I don't know if you like mentioned this or not. Is that like even when you have a chosen major, you can still take classes in different like schools?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You also don't have to apply.
Mm-hmm. The only restriction on class is like prerequisites. Like you might have to take a certain class to be able to take the next class after that, but you can take any class from any school basically.
Yeah, like at Michigan, you have to like apply to Ross to take class at Ross, but at WashU, like you just walk across the field and like sort of sit down. Like there's hardly any registration requirement.
Sarah?
Yeah, super quick. Did you interview to get it in your application process with WashU? Did they offer that?
I did not, but I have friends who did.
And Eliana, do you remember? I don't even remember. Was it a option for you?
They didn't reach out to me about it. I think it was the kind of thing where like they'll reach out to the students if they have someone in the area,
right?
But it's not like a requirement.
We do them in LA. So like it's like if you like, I've interviewed students from LA for WashU before. Like you're able to do it. You just have to like know there's an interview day, and then you'll sign up.
And Sivan, do you remember your year?
No one ever reached out to me.
Yeah, Sivan wouldn't have got admitted if he was interviewed, so he couldn't have had an interview.
I got very lucky, yeah.
But what I will say to that question, Sarah, is a lot of times if Sephora is an alumni interviewer in the LA area, they'll email their interviewers and say, these are the 100 names, pick the ones that you live near, or pick 5, or pick as many as you can. And Eliana, now I'm remembering as she was talking, a lot of times you might have classmates who get an email and others classmates who don't. It's just based somewhat random, which also generally should prove the fact that the interviews have little to no impact on getting in.
No.
Yeah, Sephora just broke up, but I think she said they have no impact. Yeah, okay.
I will say that like I don't know if this has changed, but WashU did not have an essay when I was applying.
They have an essay now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that changed, I think, Eliana's year.
Yeah.
I was just like, they must have like some data they use because they're very consistent about getting like driven intellectual people who are like willing to nerd out about stuff, but also like have a time. It was like very consistent, and I don't know how they did it without the desk, but now they must do it better.
Right. Well, assuming there are no other pressing questions, the 5 of you were fantastic. Thank you so much for volunteering your time on a weeknight to speak to your experiences, especially law students and people employed and taking college classes and trying to get through second semester of freshman and sophomore year. So thank you guys so much. If any of the juniors have follow-up questions, I'll be in touch if I could put you guys in touch with them if they have any specific questions, but I see a lot of nodding and thumbs up. But thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. And to the juniors, have a great night. And hopefully you guys can attend some of the other workshops this week.
Good luck, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you,
Yeah,
guys.
good luck, guys.
This was
Have a great
really
night, everybody.
helpful.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dr. Mancuda.
Yeah, thanks for the promotion, Justin. That was huge. I appreciate it. Do I get my degree from you? Do I get the diploma from you for my wall?
Yeah, my diploma's right there. I can just mail it to you.
I appreciate that. Please say hi to your family for me.
I will. Thank you so much. This was lovely.
Good to see you.
Bye-bye.